My name is Chelsea Pederson, and I will be discussing the Individuals with Disability Education Improvement Act of 2004, known as Public Law 108 466. Bush reauthorized the bill into law on December 3, 2004. Representative Michael N. Castell introduced and sponsored the bill. Following Castell, House Committee on Education and Workforce, as well as the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, were added as sponsors. Historic revisions. Congress enacted Elementary and Secondary Education Act in 1965, which provided resources to ensure disadvantaged students had access to quality education. In 1975, Henry Ford signed the Education for All Handicapped Children Act into law. Sometime in 1986, an amendment was signed to include infants and toddlers. 1990, an act was amended to rename the policy Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is the same time Americans with Disability Act was signed. 2003, Michael Castell introduced and sponsored IDEA. When Bush reauthorized in 2004, he essentially updated the law while advocating for No Child Left Behind Act 2001 into the equation. IDEA is accomplishing their goal by providing those with disabilities appropriate education, employment, as well as transitions to independent living. They're also accomplishing their goals by not only helping the individual in need that's needing assistance, but protecting their rights and furthering the growth of generations who have been discriminated against. IDEA has 13 disability categories, and a condition to become eligible is the individual must need educational assistance. Some of the disabilities are autism, blindness or visual impairments, deafness or hearing impairments, and even speech and language impairments are included. Emotional disturbance, intellectual and specific learning disabilities, as well as those with multiple disabilities, are eligible as long as they need educational assistance. IDEA is implemented through 4 sections. Part A creates the Office of Special Education Programs, who yield the responsibility of defining terminologies and carrying out terms presented by IDEA. Part B consists of providing free and appropriate education, as well as individualized educational planning in the least restrictive environments. With this portion, parents have the ability to protect their child from ages 3 to 21 by challenging services and requiring documentation of educational history. Part C provides individualized family service planning from birth to 2 years of age and offers intervention services that are entitled to timely resolutions. Part D insists on national influenced activities to improve the education for those with disabilities. Benefits of IEP. IDEA encourages specialists, teachers, parents, and students to develop an IEP. This is an agreement on what accommodations or services the student is allowed. A personal example is while I was in middle school, I was allowed to have various colors of pens and markers. Color coding and appealing script are how my teachers accommodated my artistic mind that had a difficulty that had a difficult time in interpreting information. I was even offered the use of a calculator in my math classes in high school, but refused in fear of embarrassment. Overall, the IEP provides documentation on how to build on the strengths rather than punishing an individual because of their disability. IEP educates students based on their strengths while working around disabilities, redefining special education. Program benefits of LRE. IDEA encourages teaching students with disabilities through the least restrictive environment approach. While in elementary school, every day for several hours I was pulled out of my primary classroom to continue in a special class. Separating students from their peers creates a target on the backs of those suffering from disabilities. It wasn't until fourth grade when I got ridiculed and referred to as a retard. I suffered through the harassment until I was 13, when I was finally given the same access and no longer separated from my peers, although I did require additional resources. Program benefits of IFSP. IDEA encourages the family and professionals to develop a living document that adjusts as the needs of the child or family change. The document is more of a written plan for the family to determine who does what, where, and when. IFSP provides family-centered services through the use of social workers, psychologists, or even nutritional counselors. Coordination across these agencies and professionals to focus on the outcomes deemed most important to the family is dire. Before the reauthorization of IDEA, over 4 million children with disabilities were denied appropriate access to public education. In 2015, 320 of the roughly 6.8 million individuals in the United States were served through IDEA's Part B, while under Part C, over 690,000 individuals were served. Texas' population in 2015 was near 27.5 million, according to the U.S. Department of Education. Texas served almost 500,000 individuals through Part B and nearly 51,000 with Part C. IDEA was reauthorized because the act was implemented 29 years prior and was no longer relatable to what was happening in 2014 within the United States. If you recall, Texas Education Agency was accused of placing a cap on special education, meaning there were hundreds of thousands, if not millions, left without proper education because of how the TEA wanted to be perceived by the federal government. After years of denial and without truly admitting, Texas Commissioner of Education wrote that the indicator of 8.5% in performance manuals would be eliminated. So there is no quote unquote further misunderstanding. Financing of IDEA is complex. OSEP established formula grants to states for education of children with disabilities through Part B, Section 611. These grants encourage Congress to set targets equal to 40% of the estimated cost of educating children with disabilities. Although many believe federal and state governments primarily pay for special education, it's rather local education agencies. Regardless what taxes or where the money comes from, if a state does not provide FAPE, the state will not receive funds for that age group. When discussing possible public policies, we first and foremost need to address that the TEA needs to remove the encouragement standard or cap for special education in districts. When individuals who are already discriminated against don't receive FAPE, they suffer severely. For those who suffered from the cap, offering recovery services may fill the gap for students who were denied due to prior state refusal. IDEA in itself is effective, but state agencies have taken advantage of loopholes, and I feel that it's time for reauthorization. We desperately need to improve the quality of special education, meaning mandatory use of research-based techniques to teach a classroom with various learning standards. Cultural competence amongst professionals, legislators, teachers is another avenue that will only increase IDEA's effectiveness.